I got a scholarship for ROTC, full ride into University of Wisconsin-Madison. And from there, I got a degree in economics and a minor in political science. And then from there, after I graduated, went to my Armor Officer Basic course. And then I served 8 years in the Virginia National Guard. At the same time, I got a career parallel to my National Guard career in the corporate America, starting off in a company called Liberty Mutual as a claims adjuster, and then moved to Marsh and McClennan back in the early 90s as a risk management insurance consultant working with small, medium, and large companies. The Bush administration passed a law that supported service-disabled veterans with respect to coming underneath the SBA program for set-aside programs that would allow entrepreneurs that hadn't had much skill in entrepreneurship to start their own companies. I was able to start a business in my office at home and grow it from just myself to...
Hey there, welcome to the latest episode of this podcast. Today's guest is David Nelson Finch, a retired U.S. Army armor officer who founded and sold Talon Veteran Services, established Marsh USA's government contracting practice, and now leads Eye-to-Eye Solutions and the Veteran Institute for Procurement. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much, Danny.
Absolutely. Well, I'll let you go from here and share your story as much as you want to share to better understand where you come from, what you do, and maybe some of the lessons that you've learned.
Sure. Danny, in order to get to where I am, I have to go back into the future and explain where I came from. I came from some humble beginnings. I got a scholarship for ROTC, full ride into University of Wisconsin-Madison. And from there, I got a degree in economics and a minor in political science. And then from there, after I graduated, went to my Armor Officer Basic course. And then from there, for an active duty period of both active duty training and an active duty to take me to 2 years. And then I served 8 years in the Virginia National Guard. And so in the Virginia National Guard, I transferred from armor to infantry. At the same time, I got a career parallel to my National Guard career in the corporate America, starting off in a company called Liberty Mutual as a claims adjuster, and then moved to Marsh and McClennan back in the early 90s as a risk management insurance consultant working with small, medium, and large companies with respect to their insurance, advising them on managing their risk in all aspects, financial, hazard, operations, and other areas that would help them mitigate their risk and help their companies overcome them or any obstacles to impeding their ability to produce income and revenue for shareholders as well as for personal stakeholders. And then from there, I did that for 10 years after I was got out of the Virginia National Guard. And then, so I did that parallel and then spent 20 years at Marsh and decided that I needed to go off on my own. And the Bush administration passed a law that supported service-disabled veterans with respect to coming underneath the SBA program for set-aside programs that would allow entrepreneurs that hadn't had much skill in entrepreneurship to start their own companies with the support of the SBA, as well as with the VA, which is the second largest bureaucracy in the United States. And from there, since I did a lot of construction work within Marsh and also was heavily focused on government contracting within the risk management sector from small, medium, and large publicly traded companies in the Beltway, I felt like, and with my ties to the military and the fact that I did serve and was disabled in my line of service, I decided to pursue this service-disabled veteran entrepreneur status. And with that, I was fortunate because while I was at Marsh, I got an MBA degree from University of Richmond. And since I was already working with entrepreneur companies and publicly traded companies, I felt like I was very, very well situated to start my own company, understood how businesses worked, understood what it was that I wanted to accomplish in helping veterans, as well as continuing to serve the military by working for Department of Defense, but also helping our veterans. I was able to start a business in my office at home and grow it from just myself to roughly 30 people, and from zero revenue to the peak of 25 million in revenue in a period of let's say 11 years, 12 years. And then from there, I had incurred some more surgeries that had needed to come about. So I decided to sell my company called Talent Veteran Services, and sold my company and migrated through the surgeries that were a result of my service to the United States of America. And then after I rehabilitated from those, decided to start another company called I-2-I Solutions. And that means I to I solutions. A lot of people don't get that, but if you think about it, it means we always say, look at somebody eye to eye. That's hence the reason why I named it that. And my focus was from my first company, from construction to more services and operations and maintenance, in serving the entire DoD, VA, and across the 26 agencies within the federal government in pursuing operations maintenance contracts, because I had many years previous to that, which was construction, which comprised putting in all the aspects that require operations and maintenance. So we've been in business for over 2 years in I-to-I Solutions now, with a gap of about 2 years working for the company that bought my company as their global growth officer, which took me all over the world, including the Middle East, and getting involved in the arms sales and going to a number of arms conferences, the IDEX one in UAE, as well as the Paris Air Show. And as a result, my heart and my being still is part of the military ecosystem. And once you're in it, it's very hard to disengage from it, because it's a very fraternal, and now it's with women involved. It's just once you've served in the military, there's always this bond that you have with other people that have fought in the military. So as a result, I can never let that go, and always have had a passion for serving our veterans, serving our active duty people, as well as being heavily involved in LinkedIn and supporting the intelligence community, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of my story, and that's where I am today.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing this. So obviously your involvement with the military, you're serving at the National Guard and working in corporate America, it's all intertwined and connected. But are there some specific leadership principles that you've learned in the military versus something that you've learned in the business world? Or maybe they're similar, maybe they're different. What's your perspective on that?
So it's a very good question, Danny. There is a difference. I've spoken a lot about leadership. I've posted a lot about leadership on LinkedIn. I've shared a lot about leadership amongst a number of arenas that I've crossed. And the difference is when you're not trained in military leadership, the leadership styles you develop are based on what has formed you and how you have had to surface in leading your company to success. That doesn't mean that those leadership principles are not the same, or not just as founded and tried and true as the military leadership principles, but there's a difference. The difference in military leadership principles is that the military teaches you to cross all areas of all boundaries within the realm of humanity. So that means that you are leading people from all aspects of the country, of different creeds, religions, races, etc. And you formed a very close bond that is all around what the mission is that you are given to execute within the military structure, whether you are a platoon, a company, or part of a battalion. A battalion is part of a brigade, and it all cascades down. And every soldier, even down to the squad level, has a role to play in fulfilling that broader mission of a battalion or brigade, which then ties into a division. So you understand the three-dimensional aspects of leadership. And even as an NCO or enlisted person, you are still you still understand the holistic aspects of the leadership aspects, that your leadership from an officer level and an NCO level are there to provide, to lead you to the end mission game or the end mission level. In the civilian sector, most of that leadership comes from within, whether if you're a second generation or third generation company, or if you've risen through the ranks of a publicly traded company. They've sent you enough schools to help train you and understand your personality traits that then the corporate America, when you are rising through the ranks, just like in the military structure or even in leadership ranks within the government, they send you to a number of schools to help hone your leadership skills, understand who you are, how you interface with those around you, and how you interface with society to allow you to take your leadership skills and take those people around you, and then how that interfaces into the broader picture and the overall three-dimensional picture, 4 or 5 levels above you. And your role is critical, both in the military and in the civilian sector. So in corporate America, they copy a lot of what the military teaches. And those in the corporate America will take those principles and they'll add and they will adopt them into a corporate structure that then teaches you very similar aspects, but not related to mission first, men always. It allows you a little more discretionary aspect because lives are not on the line. It's more of a monetary aspect. In the military, you're dealing with lives, protecting and making sure that your men are very well trained and your women are very well trained to make sure that whatever comes at them, they're capable of overcoming those obstacles and maintaining their integrity and then pursuing the mission and going forward no matter what happens. And there's a big difference there. And if you happen to serve in the military and then you go in the private sector, you actually have the foundational success of what leadership is all about. It doesn't matter if you come from the enlistment background or you come from the officer background or NCO background. Those skills are taught to you from a fundamental aspect, from even when you're in basic training to the time that you go into your NCO leadership training, or if you're an officer, to go into your officer leadership skills. They are both integral parts of a successful organization that basically creates a leadership function that learns to delegate. So the officer is responsible for overseeing the operations order and making sure that everybody understands we need to go from point A to point B, C, and D, and here's how we're going to get there. And it cascades down to the NCO ranks, and they in turn cascade down that message. And there's a thing called the operational intent, the military intent, leadership intent of what that mission includes. So that's what differs in the military, not just in the United States, but from many other militaries around the world that we have created in our country and in the United States military establishment, the ability to, if the senior leader happens to either be killed or taken out in the course of action or whatever reason, that the next senior ranking person understands the leadership intent of what that was, starting from the division leader, cascaded down to brigade, battalion, company, platoon, squad. So they're actually executing on what the overall intent of that mission is, compared to in the corporate world or even in the private leadership world, of where you're really focused more on the intent of what you, if you're the entrepreneur, or if you're not the entrepreneur, or you work for an organization that's a private corporation, S Corp, C Corp, whatever it is, that the individual who founded that company wants to see where that company will go. He will cascade that down, but it's not quite if they've never been trained in leadership. But they are very much a subject matter expert. What you'll find is that they will bring in aspects of leadership in their organization that can take the subject matter expertise, such as the founder and those within the organization, and help them focus their subject matter expertise in developing a competent organization that can then succeed in what that organization wants to execute, whether it's in retail, whether it's in government contracting, whether it's in construction, you name it, whether it's in IT, but whether it's if it comes from a person who served in the military, they actually have a better, broad, holistic understanding that to be a good leader, you also have to be an excellent follower.
Some very rich advice, and thank you for bringing that up. I also want to let you share your advice or lessons with, let's say, a 20-year-old who's listening to this podcast. Maybe you can imagine yourself at 20, or maybe someone else. What would you tell that person?
Yes, I'm 62, and I don't think I'll ever retire. I've got about 3 more companies in me. So when I'm done with this one, I'll start another one just because I love creating and building a company and then turning it over to the people that come in behind me. But for younger people, I just posted on LinkedIn today. They were talking about millennials and Gen Zs and Gen Xers. And this is um, the first time we've had 5 generations in the workforce. There's millennial, I think it's Gen Z, Gen Xers, and now Gen Y. I don't really understand the alphabet, but I know that there's like about 5 generations. So if you're a young person striving to rise up into a leadership rank, whether you want to start your own company, whether you're working in a corporation or a small business, medium business, or a large size private business, you have to develop those skills that will help you become a leader within your organization. Well, that's kind of a trite saying, but there are skills that you can work on. One is to find a mentor. Find a mentor outside of your organization that has had leadership experience that you can ask, say, would you be my mentor and help me kind of, if I can come to you with questions that somebody's maybe, 10 years, 15, 20 years older than you, that has much more experience. The trade-off between being older and having wisdom and having the understanding of how leadership becomes instinctual. And I subscribe to the servant leadership process where, look, I know how to set the tents poles and create a structure and bring the right people in. But to allow them to be most successful, I think requires more of a servant leadership role in saying, look, what do you need to be most successful as an individual amongst the other group of people that you're working with, and then supporting them. And that's gonna range from A to Z depending on the people. Some younger people I feel that there are people who are naturally born with leadership skills. And I'll give you an example. When you were in high school, junior high, or college, name it, and you've actually worked if you were working in a workspace, trying to work yourself through school, you can actually identify instinctively people that actually you would say, I would follow that person. You would go out to a place, whether it was a restaurant or you were going to buy something, or you were going out about and you were talking to people, and you were at a party as a young person, whatever it may be, you're asking them questions. And these people are very confident. They actually show the intellectual capacity to answer your questions in a succinct fashion. And you say, wow, these people actually have their act together. I would follow them. How did they get that? And my philosophy is, and over the years of my experience, is I have met people that are in leadership positions that should not be there. They're there because the politics of the organization. They managed up versus managing down, and they stepped up on all the people below them. They didn't care about them. They just wanted to get up. And the Peter Principle. Do you know what the Peter Principle is, Danny?
I've heard about it, but
Okay.
can't recall it.
The Peter Principle, for all of those of you that are listening here, is a foundational truism. And that means that you rise to the level of the highest level of one level above your incompetence. Does that make sense? So,
I think it does, yeah.
okay, let me refine that. Is that we as human beings always think we can do better or be more than what we really are. So where you find that out the most is being put in a position where you naturally can succeed because you have a natural level of competence based on your ability to learn and what you have been able to learn through school experiences, etc. And then those levels of experience from the standpoint of that have put you through. I've had to rise to a level that I never was before to basically get myself and get my organization and whatever my task was to a point that was tasked to me. But then what happens is, and I'm sorry for my voice, then what happens is that those people that have politicized themselves to position because they have taken the credit of those below them. They have articulated themselves as being the ones who were the ones that brought all the success to their superiors when it wasn't them. It was their subordinates, and they're taking credit for that. Then the superiors say, okay, you're ready for the next promotion. And they get the next promotion, and they're not ready for that. They're not ready for that because they don't have the skill sets for that. They have just positioned themselves to be able to show to their superiors that, yes, I deserve this position. So then when they get there, they're at the next level of their incompetence because they don't know what to do or how to execute on that. And then, so by virtue of them bypassing the true level of experience and progressing in an organization because you're good at what you do. You're a leader. People will follow you, and management or superiors recognize you for what your innate leadership capabilities are. And then they promote you as a result of that, which is what the military does. They don't promote you to the next level of competence. You have gone to a number of schools and you have been three-dimensionally, 360-degree criticized, and aspects of a 360-degree level of constructive criticism that goes on paper that somebody can read and say, here's that person's strengths, here are their weaknesses. Their strengths outweigh their weaknesses. We can compensate for their weaknesses by either putting them with somebody who's very competent on their weak side, but overall they're 60 to 70% of the way there in superior leadership components. Well, thank you, Danny, for allowing me to come on here. Leadership is a very foundational aspect to being successful as a young person in anything you can do. Watching these podcasts, watching Danny's podcast or other podcasts is very helpful in understanding all the aspects that you can learn from to help you be successful and proceeding forward in your career, whatever it is you want to proceed, life, a marriage, whatever it is, in honing those skills and developing yourself as the best individual you can be.
Yes, sir.